Hey besties, welcome to Cozy Chats. My name is Randy and I'm here to normalize a cozier way to do business for chronically exhausted entrepreneurs. But quickly, before we get into today's episode, I want to extend an invite to all the chronically cozy entrepreneurs out there looking for a community that understands them. I know how isolating it can feel to run a business while managing a chronic illness or neurodivergence, which is why I built the Chronically Cozy community for entrepreneurs where you can share your creations, connect, collaborate, and feel supported. If that sounds like your vibe, we would love to have you. Join us today at chronicallycozylife.com or through the link in my bio. Now, sit back, get cozy, and let's get into today's episode. Hello, besties, and welcome to Cozy Chats. My name is Randy. Today's guest is Erica Settino. She is an author, artist, activist, and a late diagnosed AuDHDer, as am I. So today we're going to talk about what it is to navigate working and building your own business with AuDHD. We typically don't fit into regular workspaces. We have been described often as being a little quirky and sometimes a little difficult. So today we're going to talk about some of the tips for those of you who have stepped away from the traditional business atmosphere and how you can accommodate and make your space and your systems a little cozier. So Erica, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Randy. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's so exciting. I love talking to people about this stuff. And do you get people who say oh, they make it their whole personality and all that?
Yeah, but
honestly, it's so fascinating. How can we not?
that's the thing.
Especially just neurodivergence in itself is pretty fascinating. But
It's fascinating and you can't separate it out. You can't pull threads of yourself out and leave, you lose part of the tapestry.
Yeah. And for those of us who spent most of our lives not knowing what was going on
100%.
and being described as things like, being a little quirky or being difficult or, something, never anything nice. It was never a nice thing.
Certainly.
Though I do miss when I thought I was a little more unique.
Because you find your people and then you're like, oh, yeah.
Turns out absolutely nothing about my life experience is unique to me. And I thought that all of these things were crazy and just happening to me. And I'm relieved. And also, it's kind of
it's a strange process of kind of unfolding these things about ourselves and understanding ourselves in this new reality with names and words for what we didn't have language for. I mean, I was 41 when I was diagnosed. That's a lifetime as far as I'm concerned, so it's wild to see that
it is a full lifetime. You are a full ass person.
Totally.
At 41, you've gone through shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 39 now. So I figured out I was ADHD fairly early. But didn't really know what that meant.
Yeah.
And then figured out the possible autism on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't personally gotten properly diagnosed because fuck getting a doctor's opinion. I do not care what they have to say anymore.
100%.
I'm so certain of it for myself, and that is enough for me. Thank you very much. What was your kind of steps?
My child received their diagnosis.
Yeah, I love that one.
Of course. But here's the thing too, which is very interesting, is that when I was a student and when I was first out of college, I worked with the neurodivergent community. I was very drawn to the neurodivergent community. And so I feel like there's always been a sense of familiarity there, of knowing. And then, life and things took shape in another way. But once I had my child, and it was everything they did, and it was so relatable to me. And I just was this kid and I operate so similarly and see the world through such a similar lens. And then, of course, they received their diagnoses. And I immediately said, well, me too. I just knew,
Yeah.
and I completely self-identified within that time frame as well. And so I did eventually get a a professional diagnosis from somebody who I felt comfortable with. She works
Okay.
specifically with women and girls. She works specifically with a lot of folks who are late diagnosed. It was like a
Love
super
that.
friendly experience. And I found it to be, for me, just as an individual, because of all the masking and because of all the people pleasing, I felt like I needed to hear it
Yeah.
because I was 41. And if you're that old, you don't trust yourself because so many
Yeah.
people have told you not to. For me personally, it
Yeah.
felt like what I needed to hear to fully step into it and to fully
Yeah.
say, I told you, I fucking
Yeah.
told you, you
I do
know?
feel like that would definitely like that would feel really nice. For me, it was that I just like I always felt like something was wrong.
Yeah,
And then when like this concept of like the mix of the autism and the ADHD was explained to me, it just clicked. It just
yeah,
felt so right. I was like, I don't need anybody else to tell me that this is correct.
right.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Who
If
cares?
who cares?
What
I'm
difference does
learning
it
to,
make?
yeah,
Right.
because like, this is why I'm all for self-diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
especially for like things like neuro issues,
Mm-hmm.
and for things like, just being, accommodating yourself. Like it's not
Right.
affecting anybody else. So
No,
whatever.
exactly.
I know
Yeah.
who I am, and I am now learning more about who I am,
Yeah.
and I now know why I want to murder the people who own the orchard across the street because they've now
It's,
put this machine in that makes the noise. And I now know why why do the lights drive me into like craziness? Why can I
hmm
make plans so well and have zero ability to follow through with them?
and walk away feeling like, what is wrong with me? And or
Yes.
I'm a flake, or I
Yeah.
don't want to disappoint people, or oh,
Why do I
friend.
forget about people? Why do I just not really feel like I'm lonely? And there's just so many of these things that I've had so many questions for.
hmm Yeah.
So I go with I am peer reviewed because
Yes.
you've been diagnosed and
100%.
we're getting connecting. So it's peer reviewed. I've got my answer. Um, where was I going to go with that? I was going to say, um, working with people with neurodivergence.
Yes.
When I was, gosh, 20 years old. Oh my God, 20 years ago. Oh my gosh. I took the human service worker program and started working with people with just varying disabilities in different
hmm
kind of forms and everything. And just before that too, like the thing that had driven me to it was I had started working with some children with autism before I ever had any qualifications to be doing so. They were just like, here's a child. They have some problems. Can you
Uh,
work on that with them? And I'm like, how are these problems? Like,
and
these
also, it was
are
probably
very
better that,
typical things. Like,
yeah, and that was probably better because you weren't, indoctrinated into this idea of let's make them appear less
yeah.
autistic.
But there
Yeah.
was just even like, so I worked at the Boys and Girls Club in what they then called their special needs program.
hmm
And for a little while, I was working with these two boys who both had autism diagnoses, um, and they just made sense to me, but they
hmm
drove the other workers nuts. And the one just wanted to talk about his D&D. Like that
Yeah,
was his thing. And
totally.
I came in like, cool, can you teach me D&D? Like
Yeah.
let's figure out how we can just make this a part of everything. And everyone else was like, well, you're supposed to be getting him away from that. And I'm like,
Right. Yeah. It's so, I mean, that's why I stopped working in it before, again,
yeah, it was
even,
so hard
yeah,
to
because
deal with.
it was very dehumanizing. It was very dehumanizing. And I found that I would speak to parents and I would be so positive about the time I was spending with their children and like their interests and their creativity and the ways
Yeah.
in which they were communicating that to me. And the parents were like so bummed by the way they were communicating their creativity and expressing themselves. And I was
Yeah.
like, we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
It was very, very
Like, I
disheartening.
think it's
Even,
very cool how much they get into the thing and how much they can learn
right.
about a thing. Like, one
Yeah.
of the things, one of my new little microaggressions has been when if anybody goes, "Oh my gosh, autistic people, like, how they can, like, they get so good at one thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, it must be so impressive to you that they can get really good at something." Like, just what? Can you not? Can you not
Well,
get really good? The only thing that's different about them, they don't actually know when to stop talking about it socially. Technically, we're all really good at like one thing. Some
right.
of
Most
us,
people dedicate their lives to
some
one
of us
thing.
get the like autism and ADHD and add a billion other things to it.
Yeah.
What did I say there? Artist, activist, author. Let's get
Yes.
into that. Tell me your story and like because I feel like, the like getting into multiple different things.
Yeah,
That's
I never was able to well, and here's the other thing about all of that is that it all makes sense to me. Like patterns, right? And then connectivity. That to me, art, writing, activism, it's all the same to me.
the
I use
same,
my
yeah.
writing as a way to communicate and express. And same thing with my art, also as self-care, also as regulatory practices, but it feels like it's the same thing. So I'm like,
Mhm.
it doesn't, to me in my mind, I'm like, this makes perfect sense. It's like, but I've definitely had the conversations with the like, oh my gosh, you do so much, and like pick a lane kind of conversation. And it really all fuels, each fuels the other.
Yeah.
So I just find that I'm better at communicating. I'm good at communicating through words. I'm good at communicating through writing, and I like it. I find it to
Yes.
be, enjoyable. I also find it to be arduous at times, but I really enjoy the process. But so all of that kind of came from a love and a passion for animals. I started work, basically my own business. The first business was an animal care business, and I'm also a yoga teacher. See, so it's like all over. But again, that to me makes perfect sense because for me, yoga isn't just on a mat. It's a whole
Yeah.
philosophy of interconnection and respect for all living beings and all of that. So that made perfect sense to me too. But
Yeah.
through working with animals, I worked in rescue, I worked at shelters, I worked in private animal care, I was a veterinary assistant, I was a tech, I was a medical services manager. I did all those things for a long time. And of course, I burnt out
Yeah.
because this is what happens. And because I also find that because we're so passionate about the things that we are doing and that we're bringing our energy to, we go hard,
Yeah.
showing up, doing the thing despite, and maybe overriding body signals that, alexithymia, I have alexithymia, is know what my body needs or wants or is feeling in the moment. It takes a little bit longer for me to process that.
Mhm.
And then also a sense of just inequity and injustice in those areas as
Mm.
well led to burnout.
You just
And
always feel like you're fighting the system.
always fighting the system, seeing these animals, being brought in abused and neglected, and I
How
would,
do we always end up getting into these caring positions that just crush our souls, right?
yeah, yeah,
I got into working in healthcare with seniors
yeah,
and with children with disabilities. And it was
yeah,
like the same thing. I kept
yeah.
seeing these broken systems and these people being mistreated, and it crushed my soul. And I couldn't or then I would have to leave the position and not be able to like see those people anymore. Why do we do that to ourselves?
then how can you not, right? Like, I feel
Can you
like what
not?
else?
Because we need the people like us who have the compassion and want to help the people.
It's a very
It's
difficult, it's like the tightest rope to
yeah,
walk, you know? Yeah.
that is definitely one of the hardest ones.
Yeah.
What do you feel like it was that usually triggered your move? Like what usually triggered you leaving one position for another?
I think it was just like the expectation to show up the same every day and
Hmm.
having fluctuating capacity, and having other chronic things, migraines, or having to be social every day, like having to be on
Yes.
was exhausting. Um, so what I wound up doing was I turned it into an animal care business where I would go in for the animals and people weren't there. So they would, the animals would be at home and we would go in and we would do whatever the animal needed, whether it was walking. I have a background in behavior training, which I have a problem with as well. So I do that
Most of
very
us with a
differently.
little bit of the tism
Mhm.
do, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So I built that. I built going, teaching yoga, and then this animal care business where I would go to the animals. And again,
Awesome.
most of the time people were gone. They were on vacation or they worked Monday through Friday, and I was going in and getting the animals out. And I had very little interaction with the people. And with the people that I was interacting with, it was for short periods of time, and I was happy to do it. And I
And they
found
were
some,
animal peoples that want and
right,
care for their animals,
right.
so
For the most part, I did
yeah.
have some stuff. I did have like some stuff where I had to advocate for the animals, but
Yeah.
for the most part, yeah, exactly. But I, and so that took a lot of that pressure to show up with all that expectation, out of it, and still the joy of knowing that I was caring for animals, which was something, and teaching, which was something that I, and still, feel such a draw to. And
Yeah.
yeah. And through all of that, I started writing and I started painting. And painting really happened after my diagnoses, but a lot of the writing I was doing was copy for the shelter. And that kind of just became a way for me to express what I was feeling,
That's
and
so
took
nice.
it, yeah, and took it in another direction. I wound up going for my MFA. And so, and I feel
Nice.
like I use my writing for activism for all,
Yeah.
I write a lot about neurodivergence and also like how I feel like, activism across the board is, oppression of any is an oppression of all. It makes sense to me.
Yes. Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. Um, okay, I want to talk to two things on that. One, I want to talk about the interaction with people side of it, and then I want to get into the justice side of it.
Hmm.
Um, so I think both of us, like, they really feel it's the working with people was really the hardest part. Like, if all of the things could be done without the people involved.
Yeah. It sounds terrible, right? But that's not what we need. Like,
Right?
we don't
So
mean
that's what I wanted to say. Like, that's what I wanted to.
here's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
as much like I was just saying, like my activism is for, like, I love people. It's not I mean, there's some people are challenging, right? Like we don't have to get along with everybody to respect them and know that they are
absolutely.
worthy of, just
Yeah,
equity and all of those things, right? But
exactly.
it's like I like people, but it turns into a performance. It's the
Mhm.
expectation of what they want from me that is exhausting. And that I
Yes.
just was like, ugh. And then the moment it starts to shift a little and maybe the mask falls a little bit, then you can wind up having problems. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Then all of a
it's
sudden you're in trouble and you said something wrong and
right. It's just or I was always like, you're naive, over emotional, and extreme in my views. That's basically across the board.
yeah.
And I'm like, my It's just amazing to me because my views are like,
Yeah,
accessibility, inclusion, equity, equality, freedom, justice for all. That's extreme to a to a lot of people. So
crazy.
yeah,
I
it's
mean, okay,
crazy.
but was it extreme that you had those views, or was it extreme that you kept sharing those views? Because that was where I kept getting tripped up. It was that, like,
Mm.
these were the things I wanted to talk about, whereas everybody else wanted to have, like, the small talk, performance. What did you do this weekend? I fucking slept. I slept all weekend because dealing with you people all week
It's
is fucking
exhausting.
hard.
That's right. Oh
So,
my gosh. Yes.
so like,
No, I
and then
think,
especially with the chronic illness too, like trying to
yeah,
hide all the symptoms, and
yeah,
because otherwise people get all judgy and
oh yeah. Or like you're dramatic or, yeah, all of it. It's just, no,
yes.
I feel like I learned very early on to keep a lot of it to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was only when I started to consider myself an activist, which was well before I found out I found out about my neurodivergence, that almost like freed me up. Like that label too was like, oh, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be talking about this. I'm supposed to be educating you about this. I am
Yeah.
supposed to be making connections where people don't want us to make them and pointing out patterns I see that maybe you don't see. Like that's
Yeah.
helpful. Um,
That was definitely, like, I think that was our role. That was the role we were meant to be in. I think so many of us become creators, and, like, I
mm,
mean, we start our own business and then we end up having to become content creators
I
because
know.
we have to do the marketing thing, but we
Yes.
end up becoming creators and activists and things like that because back to that, the social justice side of it, and the
Hmm.
really feeling like we need to, like, we love to talk about what we're passionate about for sure, but, like, the need to, like, educate other people.
Yeah.
I find that that's something that we both really have in like, and so many of us have in common. But I wanna back up a second. What in your business now are you doing to communicate more comfortably with people? Like, how do you manage most of your communications with people? Like, your day to day, coming
I just moved from New York to Virginia. So it was a big move. I literally just moved like
that's,
two
yeah.
weeks, 3 weeks ago. So it's changing again, so much of, so I find that it's like I have to do the hard things if and sometimes I'm like, why do I do this? Like, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. And then,
We do that.
and then you try to like renew and rejuvenate and, repair and recuperate and all of that. And then you get like that second wind and you kind of come
Yeah.
back to it. And that's how I know I want to keep doing it, but I'm getting better at putting rest in between,
Yeah.
especially after a big move like this. But so now it's like I have to go out and I have to start introducing myself to people and I have
Yes.
to bring my books to people and
Mm.
that's hard. That's really hard.
Marketing yourself is difficult, which is especially when you're AuDHD, already dealing with the fact that, like, most people haven't liked how you interacted in the past.
Well, like I'm going into even it's so across the board because like one of my books that is coming out in 2027 is Autistic Arcana, and it's a neurodivergent approach to tarot magic. So
Very
that's
cool.
very niche, right? It's
Yeah.
like extremely niche. I love my publisher for even taking it on. It's amazing. Um, but like I'm already like you're already talking to a limited amount of people in regards to like how many people are into tarot, right, in general, and like really into it that they're gonna want to buy a book about it. And then
Yeah.
I'm adding in, so I'm going into these cool bookshops, witchy bookshops, and I'm telling them about the book, and then it's like, but it's the autistic arcana,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, and it's still like,
Really?
you
Because
know,
I have, like, a little bit of a theory that most of the witchy community is one of us.
well, I
Whether they
don't
know it or
disagree,
not.
right? I don't disagree that I have found
I
my
think that, like, I do, not practicing, but very witch curious. I just
hmm
recently actually bought a tarot deck, which
Yay.
after this I'm totally going to show you and we're going to talk about. Um and as I keep meeting more people, and I had to add, there's a witchy section in my directory
I know. I didn't
because
know where
there's
to put
so
myself.
many of, yeah, right? Like, because you do all of the things, and
Yeah.
this is why I have so many different sections in there too. Um, but there is actually a lot of us, and I am
hmm
starting to get a little convinced that it might not be a neurodiversity sciencey thing as much as it's a little bit of our magic. We
I, you
perceive
know,
things that others don't. We see the
hmm
patterns that others don't. We tend to feel more connected to whether we like to spend time with or not. The people and the nature and the
yeah,
animals
yeah,
and the connection to more
yeah,
natural medicines.
yeah, absolutely. It all
I'm not
makes like,
imagining these things, right?
no, you're not. You absolutely are not.
If
And
you are
it's,
a witchy entrepreneur, please drop it in the comments
yeah.
below. Let us know. I want to know that it's actually a little bit of magicism.
It's a thing. I saw a whole thread in Threads the other day. I'm new to Threads, but I was in there and I saw a whole thing about I think it was like neurodivergent witches and neurodivergent vegans. And I was like, like I'm both.
That makes
I'm
sense.
all that.
Yeah.
And it again all makes sense. Like I was, writing about the intersection of the witch trials and what we've done to witches and the oppression of witches and women and mostly women and what we do to animals today. It's like it all intersects. So if you see it there, more than likely, hopefully, we're going to be open and receptive to seeing it where it's continuing and how it's kind of
Yeah.
it shifts, but it continues.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of folks are um, either self-identified or
Hmm.
questioning or absolutely know that
Yeah.
they're neurodivergent. And I just like that's why I like to use the term neuroqueer because I just feel it's like
I
I
like
love
that.
that term. Yeah, I love the term queer. I love that it's for neuroqueer, it's not speaking to sexuality, but it speaks to that differentiation where, it's we're seeing things in a
Yeah.
way that is not, quote, the norm,
Yeah.
but certainly,
And just in the same way, they're LGBTQ, but all the people, they don't fit into necessarily specific boxes. Neither do we. Like some of us are ADHD, some of us are autistic, some don't fit into either of those categories. There are just what I mean. I wish I had a list right now because I can't pull it out of my brain at the moment. But there's a whole range of conditions that are
totally.
diagnosed as
hmm
being part of the neurodivergent spectrum.
Yep.
And then there's a whole bunch of people who you're just like, are you a little quirky or? And so I mean and I hate it when people do the we're all a little bit.
Yeah.
And no, because you don't get a diagnosis until it affects you in a way.
Right. It's a
But
disability.
yeah, we're not all a little bit. However, it is always I always like to use that as a good time to point out that yes, they are all human traits.
Exactly.
It is not a crazy thing that we feel this way. It is not a crazy thing that we don't like having a ton of people around and acting like my husband's actually just starting to learn the difference. And now, whenever I refer to the neurotypical people, I'm like, oh, it's totally a neurotypical thing. And he's like, those are the regular ones, right? Because now he's starting to see the patterns of I don't think they're doing things the right way either. And
No, I
so
know.
there is like, no, not everybody is, because it is a diagnosis and it is a like full disability and a trait
Yeah.
that affects your life in all of the different ways. However, they
Yeah.
are also all human traits. We just are bad at performing, or really good at performing,
Or really
but
good.
don't,
Yeah.
but we know we're performing, we don't like it,
Don't want
and
to.
we don't want
And we're
to.
not getting
Yeah,
paid for it.
no. And so also now, you're 41, you said?
Well, I'm 45 now. I
Oh,
received my
45 now.
diagnosis at 41. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. 45 now. I'm 39, so turning 40 in a year. Um, how's aging with AuDHD going?
I just hesitate to tell everybody because I'm like, I don't want to freak you out.
I'm freaked out. So we're there.
But you know
And
what? The
let's
truth
just be
is,
honest about it,
mhm,
because like this is where I think like the social justice side of things. How many less fucks do you give lately? Like
so many,
many less.
so many less
I want to
fucks in
tell
so many different
everybody
ways.
how shitty they are, and exactly what they're doing wrong. So that's actually probably a good thing I've removed myself from traditional workspaces.
But yeah, I mean, look, we have to talk about it because we are suffering.
We are.
Women of a certain age, people with uteruses, we're suffering. And it's really challenging. And we know that neurodivergence, autism, ADHD specifically can have a specific, I don't know, magical brew of
Yeah, it just
challenge.
adds a little extra spice, you know?
It makes it more spicy, that's for sure. I mean, I I actually, part of my receiving my diagnoses actually was in when I was 38. I started going through crazy changes. I was having panic attacks. I had never had panic attacks. I had anxiety attacks. I didn't know they were anxiety attacks. But I never had a panic attack. That started when I was 38. I started having all kinds of physical symptoms, racing heart, dizziness, just random things. And of course, all of the symptoms wound up causing more anxiety. So then it's like
Yeah,
feeding the loop.
yeah,
Um, and I basically just started to break down. I was in burnout for a very long time. I am still, amazed at the fact that at 38 years old, I had no understanding that that could be part of a hormonal shift that I was entering into.
yeah.
And I also happen to have PMDD. I don't know if you're familiar with PMDD. It's a bear, um, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And it is it I mean, before I knew what it was, first of all, it's most of the time self-identified because doctors still know so little about it, and it's
Because why would we
cyclical.
learn anything about
Well, because
women?
of women's bodies, right? Of
That'd be
course,
silly.
silly. So it's cyclical because it's during your cycle, right? So it's like 2 weeks out of
Yeah,
every month, you're thrown into this depressive, overly anxious, suicidal state. And I mean, and then there's the body stuff because then my whole body would bloat and I would be like physically unable to do things that I could normally do, and just horrible migraines and just debilitating
yeah,
stuff. But the worst was the intrusive thoughts and suicidal ideation. And I finally realized because I would have it and then I'd feel a little bit better and then it would happen again. And it was like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Because this is happening
yeah.
again. And I thought I was getting better because, we always blame ourselves. So,
Why
I,
not?
yeah, well, I finally realized that it was cyclical and I finally got a name for it. And so, and it does lead to this sense of with the zero fucks given, but like it does lead to this sense of I am only going to give this limited amount of energy that I have to the
Hmm.
things that I feel the most strongly about, to the things that are truly the most important, to taking better care of myself, to taking really good care of my child who is also an AuDHDer. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's extremely important. And it's a shame that it takes us getting to this point in our lives
Yeah.
for us to be like, um, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. And it's so many things. It's physical, but it's also the societal and cultural pressure.
Yeah.
But it's challenging.
It
It's
is.
extremely challenging.
And like, it is such a freaking blessing to be able to step away from all of the traditional structures of things where you have to be working at certain times and all of those things,
I know.
when it comes to that. Has there been anything else that you've made like big changes around that's helped you accommodate the fluctuation, accommodate the like roller coaster of it all? Like, what do you
Because
do to keep it flexible?
Yeah, I have to. I had to get to the point of saying, like, really accepting that no 2 days look the same. Like, I would love to be somebody who, like, wakes up and does a practice and meditates and writes in her journal. I'm not that person.
Would love
And I
that.
tried to be that person for many, many years. And I
Yes,
wound
me
up
too.
just feeling like a failure. Right. And
Yes.
and it was like, it was always, oh, you're not trying hard enough or you're not dedicated enough. And finally coming to
You just need a
understand.
plan. Try writing it down.
Right, exactly. Set a timer.
S
So
Said to the person with a pile of journals beside
just
me.
hmm Oh, if I buy the new journal, that's going to be the thing. That new
Yeah,
journal is going to
yeah,
be the one. Oh my gosh, I know. But I had to embrace the idea of things looking differently all the time and honor it. Really practice honoring it. Like instead of feeling like I had to maintain some semblance of what is again considered the norm, I'm like, well, I get like a real rush of energy after dinner at like 7 o'clock. That's when I work out. And that's like
yeah,
my husband was always like, I can't believe you can work out now. And I'm like, it's the only time I can. This is when I feel like I have enough energy and I've finished other things. Like allowing myself to fit in what I need at the times that it's actually appropriate and of benefit for me to be doing it was a wild perception change of like it
yeah,
doesn't, so that is huge. Understanding that no 2 days are going to be the same, recognizing capacity over ability was a very big thing for me. It doesn't mean I'm
yeah,
not able, it just means like I'm not the same every moment of every day. And certainly there is a sense of I have my therapist. I'm always saying like I feel like there is a sense of grief with recognizing that you want to do something and you can't do it.
that one's hard. And,
It's
like,
really hard.
the thing that so many people don't understand is that it's not a thing that you work through and it goes away. It's
No,
a
it's
thing that hits you
perpetual.
over and over and over again. Every time you lose the ability to do something different or a new symptom shows up, you have to deal with a whole new sense of grief at the fact that your whole body is just doing this thing without your permission, at the fact that like your life is going to change, at the fact that you maybe can't do something now. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's
It's a
it's
lot.
perpetual and it's like we're constantly navigating that. I'm
Yeah.
constantly navigating the reality of like, yes, other people have it worse. That's very
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
And it's also
Yeah.
very real that what I am navigating is very challenging. And
Yeah.
if I try to push through that in my work, then my work isn't good. So a big part of what I've done is actually say the thing in the work, write it
Yes.
down, say the thing, paint
Good.
it. That's a big part of it. And I feel like
Acknowledging it.
Yeah, giving it room to breathe. Like instead of being like, I'm going to
Giving
try
it a
to,
name.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
that's a big thing.
yeah.
Even the process of like speaking it aloud or like saying out loud,
Yeah.
oh, autistic or whatever it is, that has been really illuminating. It's just like
Yes.
there's so much more room for grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just it helps you just have that compassion for yourself.
Yeah. And my
Like,
therapist tells me I'm always missing that part. And I am.
mm,
I still struggle with that. I am much, much
I
more
think as we all
able.
do.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
that's such a
so much more
common,
able to offer it to others than I am
mm,
to myself. So that's
yeah,
the practice too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that I've been thinking on this lately. Like, why am I so much more able to offer that compassion and that advice to other people, but I'm not able to take it for myself? And it's because I can see the reasoning behind the advice when I'm giving it to somebody else, but I can feel the barrier when I'm trying to take it myself. And I think that's the big difference because, I will tell somebody, you got to slow down. You got to make sure you're taking breaks and you got to make sure you're taking time for yourself. But then for myself, I'm like, well, but I have all of this stuff to do and I can feel the stress of the things to do. And nobody understands how frustrating it is to be told to pace yourself than a busy person who just wants to do the things,
Mhm.
but now has to slow down. I'm so sick of slowing down, and people don't see that part of it because they just think that they're giving really nice, good advice.
Right. And I
The
feel
next
like
fucking healthy person to tell me to rest, I swear to God.
yeah, and right. And rest for us is not the same as
It's
rest
not
for
the
somebody
same.
else. No, it is not.
Yeah.
You never
Give
feel
yourself
rested.
permission to rest. Cool. Cool, bro. I'd
Hmm.
love
Hmm.
that. Like, I've given
Yeah.
myself so much permission to rest, and turns out it's done absolutely nothing for me. I got up and was still in pain,
And
and
still
now the
exhausted.
things aren't done.
Right. Yeah, that is such a
So
hard
while I
thing.
still know that this was very good advice, and I should definitely, I don't want to. And I
I know.
constantly try to explain to my husband, like, the thing is that it's not that I don't want to do this. It's that I really want to do this. But I don't want to do it because of the consequences.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So finding
And
that flexibility to work, sorry,
that's
at
okay.
the different times, and that's so huge. Finding
Yes.
that way to how do you manage your schedule and stuff? Like, what do you use? We talked about the planners and the journals and the everything. Um, I
Uh-huh.
want to know what you're using to manage all of your things.
I use an old school pen and paper. I
Yes, love
do
it.
not do and again, it's like people will be like, "Well, put it on your phone because then you'll get alerts." And I'm like, "I don't want the phone yelling at me. I got enough
Yeah.
going on in my head. I
First
don't
of
need."
all, it makes me want to throw my phone.
Right. I get one alert a day and it's to not forget to take my medicine, and that's enough.
I did I take mine? Yes.
Right.
Um
See?
Same. Why do people think that an alert is going to make me do anything?
Well, that's the thing. It comes in and then it just sits there. I don't get up and take my medicine when it alerts. I get up 4 hours later and check my phone before bed and I'm like, shit, I didn't take
Yeah.
my medicine.
Yeah.
And it works because I take it before I go to bed. But the alert isn't like prompting me to do anything differently.
No.
Right. So I find personally that writing things down has always been helpful for me. And I will do it over and over again because I also find that that helps me remember better.
Mhm.
And I have that weird thing about my handwriting. Do you have that? If your handwriting isn't good, you've ripped the page out of the journal, right? I totally do. Yeah, I hate that.
I like buying I buy cheap notebooks so that I can write a messy list. which will then turn into a slightly organized messy list
That's
to
a good
then be
idea.
rewritten as a nice list in my pretty plan.
And you see, and the amount of time and energy that that takes, people don't understand. Like,
I
that's a
can't
huge
not,
amount of,
though. Could I not? Like, I would love to not. The people who tell me they're like, well, just stop writing down your list again. And that is, again, advice that I will give that if you are an ADHD person and you are getting distracted by this, you need to set yourself a rule of only writing it down once. And I recently gave this advice to somebody and she was like, that sounds very difficult. I'm like, I know. And I am bad at it. In full truth. However, I found if I really want to stop myself from rewriting the list, color coding it.
really.
Adding something to it, color coding it, or adding like little symbols to it instead of rewriting it. A, it made it colorful and fun. And B, I didn't spend all of the time rewriting it. Stopping myself afterwards, like after color coding it and then rewriting it and color coding it.
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but
No.
it's, we have to, it's the thing to do. Like,
But
it
can you
makes
follow through
with not, well, I'm with what
with
I
the
write
plan?
down, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
I'm not giving myself like hard deadlines unless
Yeah.
I have to. Like,
Yeah.
my book was due in August. I knew I was moving. It was a huge move. I finished that
Mm.
book by birthday was in, I finished the book right before my birthday. That was my goal. So
Nice.
that was
Good job.
April. And that was, I
Look at you
gave
go.
myself that hell
Yeah.
because I knew I was moving and I did not want to be
Yeah.
wrapped up in a huge move and knowing that my book wasn't done because that draft
Yeah.
would have given me such anxiety and I just wanted to know it was done and now we're here and we're settled and when the publisher gets in touch with me in August for the edits, I'll be able to do it.
That's
So,
nice.
and sometimes I work better with a deadline.
I always work better
ADHD,
with a deadline.
yeah, the deadline, as long as it's not mean and as long as it's not like I'm going to be punished if I don't meet the deadline,
Yeah.
I find that that can be a helpful thing,
For
knowing that there's a
me,
bit of a time constraint.
I struggle to give myself deadlines. Um I am a fairly lenient boss who just doesn't take nearly enough control of the situation. She needs to get a little bit more hard-assy, but I also know, though, that, like, if I write it down and I say like, if I try to say, "I'm going to do this every day," or if I'm gonna do
Don't
this
do that.
oh, I can't, and I tried
Don't
for
do that.
so many years, and that was
Hmm.
one of those huge shifts that I had to make. I tried time blocking for years. Gosh, no. And then people are like, "Assign a theme to each day," and I'm like, "Well, but how do I know that every Tuesday I'm gonna wanna do this writing?"
Mm-mm. I don't do any of that. There's none of that. And
Yeah,
again, that's extremely neuronormative and
super. Yeah,
just feels like punishment to
yeah,
us. And when, again, when you can't
yeah,
do it, you feel like you're failing at something that everybody else can do.
yeah.
But no, I can't do any of that. I don't want to do any of that. I feel like that just goes against the honoring of the capacity and where I am in
Yeah,
this moment. I mean, look, I will sit down to like with a specific idea or something like it's sending my newsletter or something.
yeah.
And it's very specific and I go with this intention and it will completely change by the time I'm done writing the newsletter. And I have learned to
And or I
embrace that.
started 5 other projects in the process.
Right.
This is
Totally.
now medicated, I still do this. I can't stop myself.
It's because there's nothing wrong with it. That is not, there's nothing wrong with it, except that it exhausts us. It's
Except that
exhausting.
except that there's so many things that are wrong with it because I don't accomplish the things that I set out to do.
Right.
There's so
I
many
know.
times my lovely husband, he's so good and he's like, "Well, that's okay, babe. That's okay." And I'm like, "Actually, it's frickin' not because
think
However,
once,
like, I know that, like, you know, it's okay in the sense that, like, it is part of who I am and I accept it and
yeah, I just,
doesn't mean I have to like it.
it is. It's like the constant, like, yeah, telling ourselves, that we're all right. This is all right. This is the way it is for me. This
Yeah.
idea of self acceptance. And look, I feel like my kid is 1,000 times better at that because that is how I am raising him. He,
So lucky.
from the earliest age, even before diagnoses, probably because I knew I was
Yeah.
so different and needed different support. And just believe people should have these kind of supports anyway.
Yeah.
But knows that they're allowed to say no, knows that they're allowed to say, I need a break, knows that they're allowed to say, I need to take a deep breath, knows that
Do
he's
you let
allowed
him
to
be
say to me,
picky?
what?
Do you let him be picky?
He's totally picky. Yeah,
That was one of the things that really drove me the most crazy is that I was a picky child when it came to like food and things like that. And
yeah.
everyone was like, you know, and I do understand that kids need to be encouraged to try different things, but like let a kid be picky and figure it out later.
In
Like,
their
if they
own
don't like
time.
asparagus, it's not gonna freaking kill them. But
No,
you know what
that's
is going to kill them? The, like, amount of, like, pressure you're putting on them to eat that asparagus every
correct.
freaking night.
Correct. I mean, and again, that's what I mean by just letting people be
Yeah,
people. Like neurotype aside, let's just let people be themselves and determine through their
yeah,
own sense of autonomy and agency what it is they want to try when.
yeah,
Feeling into their bodies, feeling into what feels right for them in the moment so that we establish a sense of self-trust and self-acceptance. We
yeah,
did not do that. We were not given the opportunity to do that. We were taught that our parents knew best, right?
yeah.
We were taught that
I was
society
never
and
taught to
culture
trust
knows
my
best.
body.
No, never. And
Unless I
I
told
don't
my mom my stomach hurt and she said, "Do you have to poop?" And
feel into your body. Do you?
the closest she ever got.
Yeah, it's a very different mentality. And
Yeah,
I think there's generational for sure.
yeah.
But
And I do forgive that they didn't know.
right.
They didn't know what they
They
didn't
didn't
know.
know. No,
They could have tried harder to be a little bit more compassionate about it sometimes, especially,
for
like, a
sure.
lot of my teachers,
For
but
sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, we would say accepting who you are and understanding it, creating flexibility in your space and
And
your
schedule.
routine,
Mhm.
and finding the ways to communicate with the people around you or to not have to communicate
To
as
not
much
have to
as
do it so
possible
much.
so that
Mhm.
it doesn't add that stress. What would you
Yeah.
say? Is there any like other big tip that you really want to throw in there to working with AuDHD before we end?
I text as much as I
Yes. Oh
possibly
my
can.
gosh. Use all of the technology, the email, the text messaging.
I mean,
I don't get
sometimes
on a video call unless it's for a podcast now.
no, and I love, like I'm texting with my father and then he calls and I'm like,
Ugh.
it's just, and that's got nothing to do with my father. That's just where I'm at in the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
This is what I have in the moment. And I have
Yeah.
gotten to a place where now text will sit, I'll read them, and I do not force myself to respond to them
Yeah.
right away. I am like, consider, like, again, this sense of urgency that, again, I think comes from our constantly wanting to be viewed as okay and acceptable.
Yeah.
There's this
Yeah.
constant sense of urgency
Yeah.
that, let me be productive. Let me show them. Let me create everything that I can create. Let me do all of the things I'm setting out to do because then they will finally think. They will finally see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
At 45, I don't give a shit. I don't. And that's
I don't give
difficult
a
because
shit.
I want people to buy my books. I want people to
Oh my
look at
gosh,
the art I
marketing
put out
yourself
in the
when you
world.
don't give a shit is so hard.
But it's like, find the place where you reach the people who you reach And that's a
Yes.
wonderful thing. And the people that you don't reach, it has nothing to do with you. None of your business. None of your
They're none of your
business.
business.
Mm.
That is so much of it.
Yeah.
That is so much of it, is that perception of it. And I know it's so hard for so many of us to let go of that people-pleasing way and that perfectionist way. But honestly, 100% will solve so many of your problems. So
And the thing
many.
is that there is privilege to it, and I recognize that there is
100%.
privilege to, people who do not have the privilege to create their own schedules and,
Yeah.
single households, single
Yeah.
income households, people of color. I mean, there for some people, they're not safe to make
They
these
have more
decisions.
systems. Yeah. They have more of the systems coming after them.
Yeah.
100%.
So I realize like the privilege in it as well.
Hmm.
And I feel like let's take advantage of it and then speak
Yeah.
out for those folks too.
Yes. I love that. The activism side of it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Um, Erica, thank you so much for coming and talking to me today about all
Thank
things
you.
AuDHD and working with it. This has been amazing. It feels like just I feel so seen right now. And I hope that
Good.
like more of our other viewers and listeners here are gonna feel that as well. Can you tell us where we can find your books and all of your other things and
Yes, everything is linked through my website, erica-settino.com. It's Erica with a C. I'm on Instagram at Erica_Settino. Everything is there, and you'll find all the links to the books and what's upcoming and
yeah.
virtual events and things like that. It's all right there.
Yeah. You can also find all of her books listed in the directory in my book section.
Yeah.
And you did an interview with me a while ago, so you can find more of Erica's story on my blog under the featured businesses. Again, thank you so much for coming and chatting. I think this has been so great. I love it so much. If anybody else wants to come and share their story and share their tips for working with chronic illness and or neurodivergence, please give me a shout. All the links are below to fill out the application. Do all the things like the likes, the subscribes if you want to hear more, and we will see you next week. Bye, besties.